And in many ways, we submerged ourselves in knowledge and understanding and began to have a better understanding of ourselves. I started coming back for Shabbat dinner almost every Friday night and bringing black friends of mine, Jewish friends of mine, Catholic friends of mine, Muslim friends of mine. And Friday night dinner at this Chabad house turned out to be the hottest place to hang out in Oxford. We ended up growing so large that we became the second largest student group in all of Oxford, next to the Oxford Union itself. It was an amazing, vibrant discussion, and we found that students were hungry for not conversations about your dating life or conversations about who was being elected to what office, but people were hungering for value-based discussions. How do our ideals, our philosophies, and values mix with the present world? How can we be tools or instruments of the divine in the creation of a messianic era, in the creation of a world that better reflects who we are and who we were created to be? At the end of my first year at Oxford, Shmuley asked me to be the president of the Oxford L'chaim Society. And I told him, Shmuley, I found out the very first day you were crazy. But now after a year spending here, I now realize that you are Meshuggah. I eventually agreed after he sigged his first wave of children on me, and I wrestled them to the ground, but they eventually pinned me. And I conceded that I would be president with a Jewish co-president, and we ended up having a phenomenal time at Oxford. But one of the most powerful moments, and this is where I am going to, one of the most powerful moments I had at the end of that time was during a Purim celebration late one night on my last year in Oxford, when everybody else was passed out drunk, except for three people. The Ezra Benson, the head of the Mormon Church's grandson, Mike Benson, who did not drink alcohol, so he was still standing. Myself, who did not drink alcohol, so I was still standing. And Shmuley Boteach, who has the alcohol resistance of a pregnant water buffalo. And the three of us are sitting there. And here is this man, steeped in Mormonism, and surprised me when he turns to Shmuley. And he says, Shmuley Boteach, being around you and the L'chaim Society for the last 2 years, learning about Judaism, learning about the various cultures that were represented at our Shabbat tables. This was truly a remarkable experience I never imagined I would have. But the best thing I could say to you, Shmuley Boteach, is being around you has made me a better Mormon and to live up to my values in a better way. Shmuley then turned to Mike Benson and said, Mike Benson, being at your table, learning about your culture and your ideals and your values, learning from each other, your open heart that was willing to embrace me and who I was, your righteousness in standing up for who you are in all ways, you have made me a better Jew. And I turned to the two men, looking at the Mormon, looking at the Jew, and I said, fellas, being around you 2 years, hanging out with you, sharing my heart and my spirit, spending my Friday nights with you engaged in philosophical and practical discussions, you all have done nothing for my love life. This, to me, is the power of standing up before the world and being unapologetic about who you are, being deeply rooted in your ideals, and your culture, and your people. That is the only way I know of to bear the urgently needed fruits that our world desperately, desperately must have. Here we stand in a world where to truly understand what Judaism is about, what Judaism stands for, the very commandments that come from God Himself, to understand that makes you realize that we are desperately in need of the Jewish voice in America. That we are desperately in need of people who have the courage to be who they are. As St. Thomas Aquinas said, everywhere you go, you should preach the gospel, but only sometimes should you use words. It is time for Jewish values not to be subdued or to be cornered and capped, but to richly flow into the river, the mighty river that is America. Now I know in my heart, from my learning from Shmuley, from my seeing the wisdom and the strength and the greatness of Jewish actors from history as well as from modern day, that we have to begin to understand what is missing in America right now, or more importantly, what we need more of. Oh, what, O Lord, as it says in Micah, oh, what, O Lord, do you want from your people of Israel? To hate sin, to love God, and to do justice. Look around us right now. Our country is not living up to its ideals. As the great Langston Hughes said, America never was America to me, but I swear this oath, America will be. How can we be ourselves if any of our children in this country shrink from who they were created to be, hide their values behind synagogue walls or at homes around Shabbat tables, and do not burst into the world and unveil themselves in all their glory, in all their greatness, in all of their strength, in all of their individuality and their uniqueness, and let the world feel who they are? What are Jewish values? I love what Shmuley and I have talked about since 22 and 24 years old, about this idea that Judaism is not about relenting, is not about retreating, is not about equivocating. It's about standing up even if you have to shake your fist at God and say, Lord, why won't the God of mercy show some mercy? Why are you allowing such devastation to exist? Why are you allowing such carnage to happen? This is the Jewish ideal. What does Israel mean? He who wrestles with God, with angels. Why are we going to allow a world to exist that people are not grappling in the earth with the challenges that still face us? So many of the ideals that are at the core of Judaism are needed now more than ever. Here we have story after story of God showing us in the Torah the reality of the situation in which we live. I wondered as a child, and what I would later discussed with Christian mentors of mine, but the most exciting time discussing the scripture was sitting around with rabbis from Chabad all around England and discussing the moment when God comes into the Garden of Eden and calls out and says, Adam, where are you? And I couldn't understand this omniscient, all-knowing, all-seeing God. Why was he asking where Adam is when he's just hiding up behind the bushes? And hear from mentors all through my life, but to hear it from rabbis in Oxford, to hear the interpretation, simply this: God knew exactly where the physical Adam was. What he was asking was, where was this man that I created in my image? Why is he not standing up? Why is he shrinking from who he truly is? God created the Jewish people for a purpose. Are we standing up, or will we continue to hide behind the bushes? Are we as a people going to be like Moses was when God calls upon him and says, no, don't take me. I'm not good enough. Take my brother. Will that be our response in the face of injustice, in the face of poverty, in the face of inequality, in the face of racism, in the face of bigotry? Will that be our response? Or will we stand up like that great leader who spawned other religions, Abraham? Will we stand up like he said when God called him to do the ultimate sacrifice and say, as it reads, He ne ni, behold, here I am. I'm here because I'm fearful of the rabbi behind me. But I'm also here because it is time that Judaism stand up in a chorus that is so desperately needed. As the Black National Anthem says, lift every voice and sing. The Mormon voice and the Catholic voice, the Christian voice, and even the agnostic's voice. But for that chorus to sing of the sweet songs of freedom, for that chorus to sing of the sweet songs of liberty, for that chorus to sound the very national anthems and ideals of our nation, the Jewish voice must be heard. The values, the ideals, the principles, the demands, the justice that is Judaism must be heard. My grandfather passed away when I was running for office in 2002. I heard about it when I was driving down a very famous street in Newark, New Jersey. A street that used to be one of the great Jewish streets in Newark. It became one of the great black streets in the city of Newark. A street called Spruce Street and where Prince Street intersects.